forget how to love? Did it happen suddenly? Or was it a gradual decline? When did we forget the very foundation of the gospel? For God so loved. Love is what moved God to action. Love is what held Jesus to the cross. Love is what rolled away the stone. But we've forgotten that part. Without love, we are simply a resounding gong, a clanging cymbal, a bunch of noise. Without love, we are nothing. Is that what people see in us? Meaningless, empty noise? Love is supposed to be patient and kind, gentle, not angry or arrogant. Yet in our effort to stand on truth, we have forgotten the very thing these truths are based on. Love. Never once did Jesus fail in this. Not in his heartbreak or his anger. Not in his joy or his betrayal. His default has always been love. Maybe it's time the church was more like Jesus.
Over these last number of weeks, we've been inundated with pictures of troops patrolling streets, people storming planes, riots and shootings and bombings. We've witnessed the killing of civilians and death and destruction from hurricanes and tornadoes. And we've seen Afghani citizens trying to flee their own home country in the face of the Taliban. Couple with that the recent eruption of COVID Delta cases that's again threatening to overwhelm our healthcare systems. And it seems like everywhere we turn, the world seems to be in chaos. And that begs the question, will we ever come to find the peace that we so long to experience? You see, we long for times of quiet rest and for conflict to be put to bed. We long for times of tranquility and cooperation among people. And yet, if I took a straw poll, I would guess that most of us doubt that that will come to pass anytime soon. So where can we go to find peace in such a troubled time? Hear these words from Psalm 1. Happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or take the path that sinners tread, or sit in the seat of scoffers. But their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law they meditate day and night. They are like trees planted by streams of water, which yield their fruit in season, and their leaves do not wither. In all that they do, they prosper. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish.
you seem so far away, 1,000,000 miles or more it feels today. And though I haven't lost my faith, I must confess right now that it's hard for me to pray. But I don't know what to say, and I don't know where to start. But as you give the grace, with all that's in my heart, I will sing, yes, I will pray. Even in my darkest hour, through the sorrow and the pain, I will sing, I will pray. Lift my hands to honor you, because your word is true, I will sing. Lord, it's hard for me to see all the thoughts and plans you have for me. Yes, it is. But I will put my trust in you, knowing that you died to set me free. Oh, thank God you did. But I don't know what to say, and I don't know where to start. But as you give the grace, with all that's in my heart, I will sing, I will pray. Even in my darkest hour, through the sorrow and the pain, I will sing, yes I will, I will pray. Lift my hands to honor you, because your word is true. Sing it again. I will sing. Oh, we sing to you tonight. I will pray. Even in my darkest hour, through the sorrow and the pain, I will sing, I will pray. Lift my hands to honor you, because your word is true. I will sing, I will sing, I will sing.
All this week, we've been reminded of the events of September 11th, 2001, and the fury that was poured out on America by those who despise our freedoms and are threatened by our belief in a God who promises to pour out his blessings on those that live their lives according to his law and who trust in his grace and forgiveness for the times that they wander into sin. That is surely because America, as a nation, has flaunted her wealth and her position of power in the face of the world's nations for probably the last 150 years. We've offered up this perception that we are the chosen ones of God, that because we claim to be one nation under God, that somehow gives us the right to stand at the head of the class and to dictate to everyone else what they can and cannot do. And 20 years ago yesterday, that haughty attitude came back to bite us in the butt. We discovered that evil still holds a lot of sway in this world and can rear its ugly head at any time and anywhere. As I watched the footage and the tributes and the remembrances that have been shared this week, I had to wonder to myself, what have we learned from the events of 2001? Most of us would agree that that day has significantly impacted the way that we live. The closing of our borders, the persecution of Middle Eastern peoples who live in our nation, the suspicion of anyone who is not like us, the creation of the TSA, long lines at airports, the closing of the Capitol building and the White House, and never before seen levels of security at all government institutions. The expenditure of hundreds of billions of dollars in our ongoing war on terror, and hundreds of thousands of lives lost as we sought out weapons of mass destruction and those who have threatened to deploy them. And so I have to ask, is our world any better? Are we any more safe than we were 20 years ago? Are we any closer to peace with those who continue to threaten our way of life? But even more so, is peace even possible in our world, given the fact that advanced technologies are now a worldwide commodity for sale to the highest bidder? Is peace possible? Or are we destined to live forever as a nation engaged in a state of struggle? You see, peace isn't something that happens in Afghanistan or Kuwait or Dubai or across the Middle East or even in our own country. Peace is not about the state of affairs in the world. Peace is about the condition of our souls. It comes from letting go of the things that we cannot control. It comes from trusting that there is one who can and will protect and guide us as we journey through this life and into the next. It comes from knowing that the God of all creation and the giver of life has our back, not because we are his golden child nation, but because we, you and I, and every other man, woman, and child on the planet are his creation. Human beings are the crowning glory of the earth. We are created in the very likeness, the very image of God, our Creator. And it's only out of his love for us that he has provided us with so many treasures. And by us, I don't mean those of us who live in the US of A. I mean us as humanity. The challenge is, rarely do we think about us in a global context. We more often think about us as a group. And even more often, we think about us as a small group. But most often, we think about us as me. And then suddenly, even before we know it, our worldview has shrunk to become our own egocentric view. What do I want? What's best for me? And we begin to seek knowledge and wisdom and understanding to gain benefit for ourselves. Our first scripture for today comes from the book of James, chapters 3 and chapters 4. James writes, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not be boastful and false to the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, devilish. For where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable and gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. Those conflicts and disputes among you, where do they come from? Do they not come from your cravings that are at war within you? You want something and do not have it, so you commit murder. And you covet something and cannot obtain it, so you engage in disputes and conflicts. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly in order to spend what you get on your pleasures. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you and give you his peace. Would you agree that we live in a world filled with disorder and wickedness? That's because we, as human beings, are filled with envy and selfish ambition. We want what we want, and depending on how badly we want it, we will find a way to get it, either by honest means, or if that's too difficult or too costly, sometimes by dishonest means. What James points out for us is that none of those things leads to peace, whether it's world peace we seek or an inner spiritual peace. Peace comes from inner righteousness, from walking with God. And the longer we walk with God, the more wisdom we will gain. The more we will be able to see circumstances from God's vantage point, and the more true wisdom that we will gain. King Solomon, who was King David's son, was, according to the scriptures, the wisest man to ever walk the earth. It's recorded in the book of Kings, chapter 3, that God said to Solomon, "Since you have asked for wisdom and discernment to administer justice, this, instead of requesting long life or wealth for yourself or death for your enemies, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there has never been, nor will there ever be, another like you. Moreover, I will give you what you did not request, both riches and honor, so that during all your days, no man in any kingdom will be your equal." James reminds us that the wisdom that comes from walking closely with God is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. Those are the fruits of seeking godly wisdom, things that will eventually lead us to discover a deep and abiding peace in our lives. And while that kind of peace will most likely never come to be experienced by the majority of nations and peoples across our world, it is possible for those who strive to follow Jesus and to grow in godly wisdom and stature.
There's a peace I've come to know, though my heart and flesh may fail. There's an anchor for my soul. I can say it is well. Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God, fall on my knees and rise. I will rise. And there's a day that's drawing near, when this darkness breaks to light and the shadows disappear, and
My friends, are you longing for the kind of peace that brings contentment within the depths and confines of your own life? If so, then I challenge you to begin to live a life worthy of the calling that you have received. Commit this day to put all the grumbling and the complaining and the self-centered thoughts and behaviors that you have embraced in the past behind you, and resolve to leave them there. As you begin to walk more closely with the God of all creation, you will begin to experience a joy and a peace and a contentment with life like never before. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the riches that this world has to offer. As you strive to walk with the Lord, may God bless you and keep you safe. May He lift up His countenance upon you and give you His peace. Amen.